Okay, so we're back with part 3 of the series, and this one is probably one that interests a lot of you. Because in this one, we're going to take a look at how we can turn what we have created in the last episode into a beautiful sounding melody. And we already have a very nice or very good foundation laid out for us. So I guess let's see what we can come up with. And if we take a look at these notes here, you can imagine that these notes, they form a melodic contour, which basically just means a contour is an imaginary line that connects all of these notes together so that they form a cohesive melody. You know, this contour describes the movement of the melody, if you will. So for us, this would probably look something like this. It would resemble kind of a waveform. If we start down here at the bottom at the C, we want to go up to the G, we want to come back down to the C again, and then go up to the F, only to come back down and start over with the C. Okay? So yeah, this is just a potential path of how we can connect these notes together. And melody writing, a lot of melody writing is simply thinking about a logical way to connect notes together. So for now, we have chosen to make this melodic contour by sticking only to the root notes of our chords below. But if you look down into the chords, that's not the only options that we have, because our harmony, they consist of many more notes than only the C. So for example, for our C chord, if you look down here, we have a G, we have a C, and we have an E. So we can potentially also say, okay, I want my melody to start on the E, or I want to start it on the G. So if you want to do something differently, this would be a very great way to start. And it would be a very safe way, because by looking down in the chords and see what notes are playing, you can make sure that your melody will sound good by simply picking one of those notes represented in the chord. It's a very safe way of composing. But I think for this demonstration right now, I will stick to the contour that we have now, and we might change things up later on. Okay, but first, I would say let's have a listen to how this sounds once again. And now I want you to remember the contour, so our waveform. And with this contour in mind, let's just simply try and connect the notes together. Let's say we want to go like this. We want to go up to the G, then move back down to the C again. Then we want to find a way up to maybe take a listen if you like. Then we might want to, this already sounds quite nice. Then we want to find a way back to or up to the F. Maybe let's go down a little bit, go down, go up, and then move stepwise up. Let's see. And do you see how we can create expectations for the next notes? So this one this movement upwards leads here, okay? This is what you want to try to do with the melody. Trying to create expectations on where the melody goes next. And then we're going to move back around by simply, I would say, simply doing this, going down. Okay, and after this is done, I would suggest we take a listen. Okay, I think I'm already quite satisfied with this, but remember that I said that the rhythm of this melody, it might change. Because once you've chosen some notes, you might see that, okay, the melody somewhat clashes with the chords down at the bottom. So you want to try to keep the contour in mind, but for example, I don't like this movement here. I think the F doesn't sound good with what's happening down at the bottom. So you can try to shift it around a little. For example, here. And also, when we listen back here, this kind of sounds too out of, I don't know, it doesn't sound like they belong together. They sound too separate from one another. So I believe it would sound nicer if we sync them back up here. And really try to listen for these kind of things where you feel like, okay, this kind of clashes with the rhythm or the harmony at the bottom. And then simply try moving around some of the melodies here. So let's take a listen, and I think it will already sound way better. Yes, I like it way more. And maybe there's even one thing that I can probably do this. You know, these are things that I just hear. You don't have to be able to do this from the start, but just if you feel like there's something off, you don't even have to be able to put into words what it is, but simply try and move things around to see what they sound like. I don't know about you, but I think this already sounds really nice. It kind of is in harmony, but also there's some movement here. There's some movement with the melody, and it contrasts the rhythm at the bottom quite nicely. It's not too similar. It's also not too far off from one another. So I think this really works quite well. But now, don't be fooled. This is only one part. We're not finished yet. Because a melody usually, you can think of a melody as usually consisting of two parts, kind of a question and an answer, an A and a B, okay? And most melodies, it's good to think of them as evolving over 8 bars. So right now we only have 4, but this would be somewhat our A part, and then we can go to the B part. So what I'm gonna do is I just copy it over here, and now we have to do some things a little bit differently to keep it interesting, okay? So what I would suggest is we can go back to finding a contour. So move them all up at the same, on the same note. And then we can do something that I have hinted towards previously, where I say, okay, maybe we can find a different contour. Something that changes things up a little bit from the previous one. So we might not go to the G here, but we might want to go to, let's say, the B, for example. So like this, and then we go down. And here we might go back up to the C, and then get back down to the A. So this is more of a subtle contour, a lot less movement. But let's take a listen. Okay, so quite different from what we had the last time. And now it's basically the same game as before, where you just simply try to connect them together, okay? So let me try this. Simply move around the notes, see what sounds good, see what doesn't, and just use your ears. So. And I think this actually is a pretty good start to say, okay, let's end the melody here. Because it feels very resolved, very nice. So I would say we're just going to join these notes together. And then get rid of these. And now we have a bit of a premature ending to our melody. But this is actually quite good. Because a lot of times melodies, if they go on over and like all of the time, it's going to sound very, very tiring. So you want to make sure that your music also has some room to breathe a little. where you can refresh your ears again and anticipate the melody over and over and over again. So music is as much about the notes that you choose as it is about the notes that you don't choose. So where you choose to not play anything. But yeah, this is what we have now. Let's take a listen again. Okay, let's take a listen to the whole thing. I don't like this particularly. Maybe try something like this. So when I go from here, yeah, I think this has a very nice resolution. It resolves itself very nicely. Then it gives a little bit of breathing room before it starts over again. Okay. But, you know, if we're not satisfied with this, we can also maybe try something a little bit more unconventional. Or not unconventional is not the right word, but, you know, maybe it's easy for us to just simply move these around. See, maybe this sounds quite nice actually. So just try around here. You're really just shifting notes. You already have your rhythm. You're really just shifting notes. See what sounds good. Let's see this. You know, I can also live with this. It just depends. It comes down to preference here. I think it sounds pretty nice either way, but I think I like this a little bit more because it has this jump up here and then goes back down. But yeah, simply listen out to what you think sounds best, what you like the most. I think this is already pretty solid, to be honest. I like it. I would be able to move on from here. And as I have already mentioned, as I will probably mention a lot more times, don't be too protective of any of your ideas. Because as we introduce more things into the music and more, these things are all subject to change. But, you know, you still want to find a point where you can say, okay, I like it as so much that I think I can move on to the next step. And in the next step, I might find some ways to make this sound even more interesting. Or maybe tomorrow you come back and listen to this and say, okay, I don't actually like how this sounds. I've become used to it once during composition, but now that I have a new perspective on this, I don't like it. So I changed this back up to the B again, for example. So, you know, just try to find something that sounds nice to you at the moment and then move forward. Okay, so one really good tip that I can give you when you compose your melodies is that melodies, they usually mimic kind of human speech patterns. So a good melody usually is also a very singable melody. So you want to avoid any sudden jumps in the notes that you play. So for example, if I try to do this, it's going to sound a bit jarring to listen to, and it's also not very singable. You know? And there are some rules, obviously, that you can jump. But for now, for the scope of this tutorial series, I think it would be easiest for you to simply think of melodies as, can I sing them easily or can I not sing them easily? And if you can, then you're probably onto something. It doesn't guarantee you it's a good melody, but at least it's a very good indication that the melody has potential and that it is catchy. And that's what I try to do here, because I only move very gradually to the next notes. You can see there's no big jumps. But yeah, this is just a rule, and rules are meant to be broken. But for us, I think it's a very good rule to stick to for now, because it takes a lot of more expertise to handle like sudden jumps in your melodic lines. I'm going to play this for you now once more, and I want you to listen out for this conversational pattern, the speech pattern that I was referring to. Try to think of the melody as people talking, or just one person talking. But, think of it as a sort of a conversation. Okay, let's have a listen. Okay, so what do you think? I think it does sound kind of like a conversation, like a friendly conversation. And by the way, I just had a thought. So you're allowed to change things, and I just heard this. I think this will sound way nicer. Yes. Yep. I like this way more. Okay. But I hope you get what I'm trying to convey. And I think this is also the ending of part 3. Yeah, hope you learned something. Hope you enjoyed. And see you in the next one. Bye-bye.